Fall is a terrific time for gardening, and it's a great time to plant a number of plants, but some herbs are best planted in spring rather than fall, and others appreciate being put in the cooler months, so it's important to know which is which. Now, bay laurels can be very hardy outdoors and very vigorous once they're established, and I prefer to plant bay laurel in the spring so that it has a good chance to get well adapted to the spot that it's in. If you're going to plant things like bay laurel and lemongrass in the fall, you might want to plant a larger container, a 1 gallon or a 5 gallon container, so that they have more of a root system. And you will need to be prepared to cover them in really cold conditions. So make sure you have row covers ready to protect your tender plants. But they're certainly very rewarding plants for the landscape. Now, another one that's kind of tender is the pineapple sage, and it's such a wonderful plant in the fall. It really is best planted in the spring because it has a chance to give its full bloom in the fall when it's so outstanding. That one is a little iffy about coming back after winter. Sometimes it does. I think it appreciates a little bit of afternoon shade if you can give it that, but it likes a little bit of water, a little more so than some of the other herbs. Another plant that's just outstanding in Austin is the lemon verbena. Again, not always hardy about coming back, but certainly best planted in the spring so that it has a chance to get established well. You may want to keep it and the lemongrass and even things like the scented geranium in a container over winter, put it in a garage or a protected area, and then put it out in the spring, and that way you'll have a chance to get it off to its best start. Marigold mint often dies back in the winter, but generally comes back as well as the Mexican oregano. So those could be planted in the fall, given some protection. Something like basil, of course, is a tropical, so it's not going to function outdoors and handle freezes. But you can put this in a container and bring it indoors or in a greenhouse and have a little bit of basil to cut. Maybe not enough for pesto, but when you want the flavor of fresh basil, you could have that. I usually plant cilantro where basil is going because cilantro loves the cooler weather. So that one goes in about October and November, and I start taking the basil out. One that I just love is this Thai lime or kaffir lime. This is such a great plant. It's wonderful for cooking with. It's great for marinating. Add it to rice water or pasta water as you're cooking. And we even do some spa treatments at the Lake Austin Spa Resort with it. But it is quite tender. It's a tropical, so it does need quite a bit of protection. Rather than put a 4-inch pot like this out in the garden, I'd put it in a pot, keep it indoors in the winter, and then put it out the following spring with protection every winter, or put it in a very protected spot. Rosemaries generally are hardy to about 10 degrees for the upright varieties, the prostrate varieties less so, maybe to 20 degrees. So again, best planted in the spring so that they have a full season to get established. Be prepared to cover if it's going to be very cold. Some of the things that actually love being planted in the fall are things like parsley, dill, chives. The oreganos do fine. Salad burnet is a wonderful one to establish in the fall. And one that I really love is Lovage, and it has a great celery-like flavor, does really well in fall conditions. Mint gets established nicely during the fall too. You can get it off to a good start. Sages and lavenders also do really well in very drained soil and can get off to a good start. You can plant some of these things from seed. Things like dill and cilantro grow quite easily from seed. Others, like the parsley, tends to be hard to germinate, so I prefer to plant both the Italian flatleaf and the curl parsley from plants. But you can get a lot of gardening going in the fall, and many of the herbs will respond and do beautifully for you, and you'll have a great successful herb garden to enjoy. And many of these things are perennials, and some of them are biennials, like the parsley. So I just think if you get them established during the cool season, they do so much better and withstand the heat when that comes in the spring much better too.